guys, Asher coming at you today in RAID Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. I'm not alone. I am joined by first-time guest on the channel. I am pumped. It is Nubkeks. Nub, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm really good. I'm very excited to dive into this. We might tread on some people's toes. People might get offended by today's video.
Absolutely. We're talking about champions that we regret building, which is never a popular topic on the YouTube.
But I'm only human after all.
First of all, first time you've been on the channel. I am a huge fan of your stuff. All my viewers should check out your channel. We just collabed as well, talking about the ugliest champions in the game, champions who are in dire need of new skins. So thrilled to have you on here. Hopefully we do more collabs in the future. My viewers, I'm sure, are big fans as well. With all that said, though, man, these videos, you came on a challenging one, man, because beauty is in the eye of the proverbial beholder, right? And like everybody loves every champion, really. And the truth is, you can have a lot of fun with champions that aren't the best on paper. So this is not a shot necessarily at any of these champions in a vacuum. It just pertains to our account and where we were kind of when we maxed them out. So the disclaimer is out. Hopefully that mitigates the hate, my friend. You are the guest. Go ahead and kick things off. Who is your first regret?
All right, the first regret I'm going in with, and this is a champion that I've said I regret before, and every time there's comments of people saying, no, I love him, he's actually great. And this champion is actually Norag.
What?
There you go. Dude, every time. Every time.
Already starting, man. Come on, dude. I love the pit. I love Norag.
Oh, dude. No, I hate this guy, man.
You out of your goddamn mind.
He's a continual disappointment. AoE block buffs, that's kind of his big deal. And he does have a cool passive, that damage reduction thing.
It's more than cool.
But, dude, the problem I have with him is like block buffs. The main place to use it is for Hydra. And like the issue I run into is every time I want to use Norag, I sit back and I go, but Ugo does it better. She just does more, and she's an epic champion. It never makes sense to me to use Norag instead, because Ugo brings block buffs, but also the decreased defense. And then, yeah, she doesn't have the passive damage reduction, but she's got such a good heal. She has the leech. Yeah, I don't know. It just bothers me every time. Like Archbishop Pinthroy, I'm actually a big fan of. I love him as a block buffs legendary.
Yeah, me too.
Different affinity. Deliana, different affinity. But you get to that blue affinity, and I'm like, Norag, get out of here. Give me Ugo all day, every day. I have him maxed out, and he sits in he comes out for Skinwalker Faction Wars, and then he sits in the vault for me.
Okay, so I also slept on this guy for a long time, right? And I've heard people out there way before I was a fan of him saying that like this guy's actually sneaky, really good. Like give him a chance. So one day I did exactly that. I gave him a chance. And the thing is like, sure, he has block active skills on the A1, like pretty cool. Block buffs on a 3-turn cooldown, great. Decent damage for a defensive-based champion. But really, for me, I only use him, just to be fair, I only use him in Skinwalker's Faction Wars and in Hydra. But I prefer him in Hydra on one of my 3 teams. Of course, I use Ugo on another team. But like that passive, I feel like it's just underrated. I mean, like obviously, you probably don't underrate it, but it's essentially giving mitigating all damage, not from AoE attacks, just all damage to all champions by 15% if they're under 1 or more buff, or 25% if they're not under any buffs, which essentially is like a built-in strengthen all the time when he's on your team, and it stacks with strengthen, right? So like in terms of damage mitigation, you put him with an ally protector or a strengthen champion, increased defense, like you're tough to kill. So I run him and Duchess on the same team with the strengthen on top of that, and it's just like it starts. And I run him in Guardian gear too, so we're like so much damage mitigation plus the block buffs bringing to the table. So like I like him in that regard. But hey, we had our first champion. We already disagree. All right,
start off spicy. I
love it, man. Let's go. I'm gonna go with mine. Maybe you love him. Maybe you love my champion. It's a Shadowkin Legendary, and it is Gammaran. Do you like Gammaran?
Oh, he's the best. I use it. No.
He's unique.
Yeah, I don't have him.
Okay.
Heart made of glass, my mind of
I do like the idea of him, but I've never used him. So I don't know. Tell me, you obviously have experience with him.
I did. I do, right? So like I pulled him and I was like, wow, this guy actually looks really cool, honestly. My first impression was like block active skills. He's got an AoE with stealing and then buff spread. The only champion I think still who has a buff spread ability. So I'm like, well, that sounds really cool, right? It is a random buff though. It does not work with stone skin, right? So that sucks.
Oh, really?
No, if it did, that would be like a different, ball game. But stone skin is immune from this buff spread ability. And then his A3 is like, it's a long one. I won't read it all out, but you can target a living or a dead champion, and it seems to have this potential and stuff like that. It deals damage. The attack can't be critical though, so it's like a negligible amount of damage on this dreaded invocation. So long story short is like, dude, he's not like, I did a guide on him. I put it out, and I tried to talk myself. I'm not sure if you ever had a video like this where you do a champion guide or something like that. You talk about a champion and like you start the video or you start the whole project by thinking that, man, I like this guy. Like, this is a really good champion. This is fun. I'm going to show some utility. And then like the more you play with a champion, you're like, oh man, this is like not a good champion. It's like, So maybe there's some genius out there who has some great utility for Gammaran that I was unable to find, but I tried him in all the obvious spots. And like I could pick out dozens of epics that I'd rather have on my team than Gammaran. Fair. I think they need to change his kit a little bit. Just make it. I don't know exactly how you change this kit. It's very unique and weird, but it just doesn't work for me, man. Doesn't work for me.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. He looks really cool.
It's a
pity that he's not not really powerful.
Aesthetically, he's one of the coolest looking champions. We talked about this on your video, but check out his like avatar too. Like he looks freaky, man.
Yeah, very spooky.
Please give me another chance.
All right, who do you got next?
Right. Okay, next up, I'm going to go to an epic. I have one epic chosen out here, and it's Crimson Helm. She is Dark Elf.
Yeah, hating on some Crimson Helm.
I'm hating on Crimson Helm, yeah. So the deal with Crimson Helm is that she is one of the few champions in the game that can solo Bommel. The problem with Crimson Helm soloing Bommel is that it is, for me, it was the least fun, most tedious, most hated part of playing Raid that I've ever had.
Gross.
I just couldn't stand it. It's very intensive in terms of gear. The actual Bommel run itself is about 20 to 30 minutes of mind-numbingly boring, just manual play, trying to time or block damage to block the bombs and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's just awful. And I was trying. My gear wasn't that good. My regen gear isn't that good. So I was slightly under the requirements, and I was trying. And I got through maybe, 2 or 3 days having built her up. This is before I was a CC. And I was like free to play at the time. So it was like a big investment to build her up. I thought, this is my key to beating Bommel. And then after about 2 or 3 days of just constantly trying, in frustration, I said, you know what? I'd rather not be able to do Bommel and just give up on Doom Tower than have to do this with her anymore. So all her gear came off. She's thrown into the vault. I almost consider feeding her just out of
spite.
Out of spite.
Okay, yeah. I don't hate her as much as you do. Clearly, there's a grudge going on right now that I don't want to get involved in your domestic issues. But
and I just want to make sure that you're marrying today for love and only for love, because that's the only way a marriage can stay together. Isn't that right, Frank?
I don't know who you are, lady.
On my free-to-play account, I actually leaned on her pretty heavily. Like super early game, but to be fair, I did outgrow her pretty quickly, like faster than I thought I was going to, unreliable provoke on the A2, for the most part, like kind of, I guess, whatever. And then she has the revive on death, increased defense on a 4-turn cooldown when you book her. All right, right?
Yeah, like she's decent, but I was like, I was promised a nice, easy way to kill Bommel, and
She's super slow, been power crept. To turn that A3 into a 3-turn cooldown, now you're talking. All right, so next up I have, maybe a lot of people might have this one, I don't know, but it's Rorik Wormbane, man. Like, I don't even know why I went for this guy. I think it was a fragment summon. Dude, he's trash. I know I mentioned this before on the channel. We mentioned this at the top of the video too. I know I've spoken badly about Rorik in the past. Obviously. spoken badly about Rorik in the past.
But it was a lot more than that.
There's a big Rorik Wormbane fan club out there. Trust me. They're going to get mad at me again for going at him. He has a 2-turn stun. Great. Potential 2-turn stun. And then, but he's just like attacking one enemy with all of his skills, you know? Like, okay, whoop-de-dip, man. Like, to me, it's a very boring champion. And, you know, the best part about him is his speed in all battles aura. That's about it.
Yeah. No, he almost made my list. This guy was super close to making it onto my list.
Okay.
But yeah, I've had it before as well. People are like, dude, I love him. He was great for like Control and Doom Tower and Faction Wars. I'm like, I just don't see it. I don't see it. There's so many other champions I would rather use than, like you said, he's just boring. Yeah. Just boring.
A single target, damage. Reduced turn meter with a mediocre damage. Come on, man.
Yeah, come on.
Like, listen, if you give a brand new account a Rorik Wormbane, like, sure, he's probably going to help you out. You know, I'm not going to like, but yeah, he's not. He needs a buff, in my opinion.
Yeah,
who you got next? Who you got next?
Okay, so next up is a champion I actually know can be really good. It's Rishtav the Bold.
Ooh.
So this is a very recent regret for me, okay? Because I was sitting down and I was like, let me build a champion finally who can solo dragon, and then I can be running my dragon solo runs, bring in food champions, level them at the same time. It's something I'd never done before. I said, now is the time to do it. And shout out to another Raid content creator. Read this stuff, Tyraku, right?
Yeah,
he had a video out. Really good. He had a video on Rishtav the Bold, and I was like, in the video, he showed how you can solo dragon with an unbooked Rishtav the Bold, and I was like, I got to get in on this. This is great. So I went in, I leveled him up, I ground him up, ascended him, all the rest, got it all going, put all the gear on, did all the gear, and I got to the end of this gearing process. And I realized that my gear is not as good as Tyraku's gear, and I couldn't quite do it. And I threw him in. Ooh. No, I threw him in, and he just wiped on like wave 1. He just wiped, and I was like, well, that was a big waste. That was a big waste of time.
I'm sure a lot of people have been in those. Like, to be fair, I'm sure I've done it. I'm sure you've done it, right? Where like we've shown a champion do something, and then someone tries to replicate it, and they think they can get there, but they just can't in the stats. They're like, awesome, stupid Raid content creator. Good job. I actually like Rishtav, but he has an AoE on his A1, which is cool, and he has poisons for days on his A2. We have 3 poisons on all enemies on a 3-turn cooldown, which is great. However, with all that said, I still like I prefer Tomb Lord so much over him, right? And it's hard not to compare the two champions. And 100%. He doesn't put out that much damage, even with the AoE and all those poisons, you know? So I'm kind of with you. He's not, I don't hate him as much as you do, but he's not my fave.
I actually ended up using Tomb Lord. I was like, I've got a Tomb Lord. What am I doing? I just built Tomb Lord and it was like, oh, this is so much easier. So
I have another one that people are going to get mad about here, and it's a Void Legendary. Man, Void champions, in my opinion, they should just be almost universally better than they are in the game, because, especially epics, you know? I mean, the shards are like, 5 times more expensive than an ancient shard. So the champions should be, 5 times better on average than you know?
Stop inflicting your opinions on the world.
So this dude... People like him, but it doesn't do it for me, man. He's got a provoke, and then he's got an AoE provoke. And that's about it, right? Like, he has a kind of a cool provoke on his passive too, or whatever. But like, okay, that's it, huh? Like, that's all it takes to have a legendary Void champion nowadays. I guess there's an AoE provoke. Freaking Rockbreaker. Give me Rockbreaker over this dude, you know? I kind of kid, but if you're looking for just like a provoke specialist, then you're way better off with War Chief and Angar. I mean, I don't know. He just doesn't do it for me. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I completely agree. If you pull him out of your Void Shard, you're going to be pretty disappointed, I think.
Like, I got a Void Legendary! Angar, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like Bivald of the Thorn just came out recently as a fragment collector, legendary. And I think as an AoE provoker, he's so much better.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like,
or
he's
Sigmund the High
amazing.
Shield too.
Sigmund, love Sigmund as well. Yeah, just much better champions overall that do more. They've got so much more in their kit, from healing to shielding, as well as the provoke.
Yeah, he needs a buff, man. A big buff on Angar. Instead of buffing Venus, how do you buff Angar,
already
right?
amazing. Yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah.
All right. Who you got next?
Okay. This is a champion that I know that you love. We're staying in the orcs. I know this is gonna hurt you.
Who you
This is
going after?
Nagdar. Nagdar the Headhunter.
Oh, my guy!
Nagdar. So this is a weird one where it's like he is a champion I regret, but it's kind of low down because there's a lot to love about him. I actually love his look. You know, it's that he looks like he's straight out of Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, right.
Uruk-hai. Such a unique champion when it comes to the interaction with Frenzy set. I know you've done stuff on him before with like getting all the turns and going crazy.
Yeah.
The problem I had with him is just that, again, maybe it's something of a gear issue for me on my account. I found it really hard to make him do damage. So like I bring him into my faction war team because it's just really fun to watch him, and I do enjoy that. But I was really hoping I could do more stuff with this guy. I was like, maybe he could do some cool things in like arena. Maybe like, he could counter Counterfon. Like Counterfon kills him, he pops back up, and Counterfon then wastes his extra turn, killing Nagdar again. Maybe that would be really cool. And just none of it happened. None of it worked out. He just failed me completely. So
okay, listen, I do like Nagdar the Headhunter, but partially, and this is a story of life, man. This is a story of life. My expectations were so low on this guy, right? So I pulled him, and I wasn't excited. I saw, like, you know, we all say don't take a look at the ratings, don't even read, don't even look at them, but we all look at them, and I'm like, oh man, it's all twos, huh? And and I'm like, this guy's gonna suck. And then I put him in Frenzy, and I mean, to your point, he was just like on my faction war team, my Orcs faction war team, like he gets 75% of the damage because he's taking every turn because he's sacrificing so much HP that his turn meter's constantly being filled up. He's sacrificing HP on his A3 and his A2, and he's killing everybody on his A1, granting extra turns there. So he's fun, but I'd be lying if I said I use him anywhere other than Faction Wars 2. So it's not like I'm getting tons of utility out of this guy, so I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. It's not one I regret that much, to be honest. Because he is so unique. But I was like, man, if he hit for me, like with my gear, if I could get him like hitting even 10% harder, it'd be like, okay, that's cooler. But yeah, he's struggling for me.
One thing I would love them to fix on him is just like, why on an attack-based champion with 0 HP, why are we, like, aka 12k, why are we basing his damage on HP on his A2 and his A3? Like, come on, man. Like, that's...
Yeah, that is weird. I don't know.
To me, I'm not a big fan of that. All right. We don't have to move far from my next one. Only 2 spots over to Gamlock Skyhide.
Wow.
So, I really don't like Gamlock Sky. I mean, like, I just, you know, he has attacking 1 enemy with turn meter and stuff on his A2, 1 enemy with leech on his A1. And then you get to Wild Surge. You're like, okay, this must be like the crown jewel of his kit because he's not doing much so far. And then you have like a decreased defense on his first hit, and you're like, okay, cool. Also, turn meter control, great. And then the second hit has a chance to place in weaken if he has full HP, and it's on a 4-turn cooldown. Like, come on, man. This needs to either be on a 3-turn cooldown or take out the conditionality of the full HP. Like, it's a pretty easy solution here, but you can't rely on him as a debuffer. And if you're not relying on him as a debuffer, compared to like so many epics have decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown, if you're not relying on him as a debuffer, then what are you using this champion for? You know, I guess that's like my overall problem with him. Tell me why I'm wrong.
No, I mean, I have to agree with you. Like, it's tough for Gamlock. It's tough. Like the problem is that he's a Doom Tower hard legendary, so it takes it's so long to get him, and by the time you get him,
you have so many better choices. So many better.
You've had Lydia for a while, right?
Yeah.
He was like, decrease defense, weaken, alongside increased speed strength, and on a 3-turn cooldown, void affinity, no weak hits, no conditional stuff. And then Gamlock comes along, you're like, I want to like you, but where would I actually ever use you?
Ever. I can't imagine anybody who has Gamlock now uses it. You know, outside of Faction Wars, you know?
I will say we just had amazing competition, and hopefully you're able to join in on one of the next ones. But Deadwood Jedi was doing the faction game.
I wish I could have played, by the way. So many people asking, like, what's up with that? Do I hate Deadwood? Do I hate you? No. I was traveling last week, and I'm like, dude, I'm so busy with work and everything like that. Stupid, lame excuses. But, like, I also know better than to commit to something I know I won't be able to come through on, you know, and let everybody down. So, but it's an amazing event.
It took a lot of time to prepare everything. But in terms of Gamlock here, YST was on my team, another amazing creator as well. And he had the Orcs. He had to only use champions in the Orcs faction. And he actually did some awesome stuff in Fire Knight with Gamlock. He was like Gamlock was really key to that team, so that was really cool.
Yeah. That's true.
Yes, but
Cool.
again, it was like if it wasn't in like a orc faction only context, would he ever have come out? Probably not, realistically speaking. Which is a pity. Yeah. It's
probably not, and he is really the only debuffer here too, right? I mean, for the most part. No, Robar has it, right? Yeah, he does.
Robar does, yeah. He used Robar as well. It was a very cool team. He was going like all out damage with the orcs.
That's crazy.
It was amazing. But,
all right, who do you have next? This is your last one? This is your last one?
This is my last one. Yes, my last one, and this one is kind of tricky. Okay. But I'm gonna go with Rule the Huntmaster.
Ooh,
Rule the Huntmaster.
All right.
It was kind of a toss-up, really, between Rule and Thea. I like Thea a bit more, but it's kind of a personal preference thing. The deal with both of these champions, with Rule especially, they're hex-based champions, right? They hit extremely hard when enemies are under hex. In fact, their hit is so hard, it's just the damage they put out is crazy high. But again, it's just like, where do you ever use that? When is it ever actually useful? And rarely it's not. Like, I thought that when I got Mithrala, I might be able to use them a bit more, but it just kind of worked out a bit awkward. Like, I ended up using Mithrala in a really defensive team in Arena. So Rule would just never fit in a defensive team. He's way too squishy. So never got to see that actually come through in Arena. And I've tried to use these champions in Hydra as well. And while, yes, they hit hard, they've got really long cooldowns on the AoE hit with the Hex. And what I found the problem was with Rule is it's really difficult because he puts Hex out for 2 turns. And then you can have the Head of Decay as a real problem coming in and cleansing that, or if the heads take multiple turns, if he ever gets provoked and misses his turn, or because he's putting Veil on himself, if Mischief comes in and then steals his buffs, and then he misses his turn and they've taken multiple turns before and the Hex has fallen off. I just found it was really hard to actually make it work. It's just kind of disappointing. It felt bad as well in Hydra specifically. Like, you put increased Hex on Rule, and then he's like, yo, let me not even use that increased attack for a turn. I'm just going to put Hex on this turn. Let me chill for a little bit. Okay, I got a bit of turn meter, but I'm just chilling here. Let that turn of that attack buff fall off, and then I'll think about nuking next time.
Soon you will be dead. So what difference is it making? There is no purpose or meaning to find in life. So just exist and do nothing.
I mean, I agree with you, first of all, about the sheer damage that he puts out. I also agree with you that the Hex champions still, despite Mithrala, don't really have a niche yet, per se, in the game. And a lot of that, too, is to do with, like, the great strategies that we already have in every area, right? Most people run Seer teams or Poison Combust teams, so you don't need a Hex team. But either way, the one thing I will say about this guy, though, is, like, the more champions they add with Hex, the more Mithralas of the world they add to the game, he's going to get way more compelling. Not just because of his damage, but because of his passive, which is, like, so synergistic with Hex that it's added the extra damage, and then decrease the speed of enemies under Hex debuffs by 5%, decrease the resistance of those enemies by 10%, increase the damage enemies under Hex debuffs receive by 10%, and decrease the value of heals they receive by 30%. I mean, that's going to have a pretty big impact if someday in the future, right, we have, like, a really compelling Hex team,
Yeah, I'm there for it as well. Like, I'm hyped.
But for now, till then, I agree with you, your feedback, There
is one champion. I think you like her as well. I'll just say it's an epic champion with Hex. And I'm going to have a video on her over the weekend, I think. That's the one.
There we go.
I actually think that, apart from Mithrala, of course, I actually think she might be the best Hex champion. She's very cool. So, yeah, I'm going to do a video on her. I know you've done videos on her before. She's really good. Squishy. But I think she's the most usable of the Hexes. With the Hex buff, especially.
I also am a big fan. I just did a guide on Thea the Tomb Angel as well. Trying to test her out a little bit, and again, kind of came into the same synopsis as we mentioned earlier about, like, cool, highest damage dealer in the game in theory, but are we going to use her? My last one, I'll keep it short and sweet here, is Errol. Talk about, like, I feel like I've been mean to Errol in the past, so I'll keep it short, like I said, but, like, just super Rorik, same feedback as Rorik, like, super boring, decent amount of damage. That's it. Like, good single target damage dealer, but outshined by so many other single target damage dealers. Turvold and Brackus the Shifter, and I can go on, Little Miss Annie, I can go on and on. So, yeah, I mean, he needs a rework or a buff, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. He was one, and like the cheeky guy, like you see his icon on the back of his cape. Can you believe he stole Hell Hades channel logo?
Believable, dude.
The disrespect.
Did Hades get a copyright or anything on that? Man, come on, like that's ridiculous. I didn't even notice that. And he tries to hide it. Yeah. He thinks he's being coy here.
Yeah, no, like I know the feel. Like I pulled Errol from a shard like relatively recently, and it's just you go, oh, it's Errol. Okay.
Yeah.
You just know he's never gonna get built. He's going into the vault.
Yeah.
It was just mercy timers reset. All right, go again.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know, man. I feel basically the same amount of excitement when I pull a faceless versus an Errol, you know? And
yeah.
It's the same, you know? But anyway,
yep.
Well, there it is. That's 10 champions that we regret building. Had a blast having you on the channel, man. Perfect time for you guys, my viewers, to go ahead and check out the collab that we did on Nub's channel. I have that in the show notes below. Thanks again for coming on, man. I had a blast.
Yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been great to come on. So much fun. I can't remember if I said it in this video or the previous one, whatever, but like the first content creator I ever saw in Raid was you. And cool, it's, coming full circle.
Yeah.
Getting to be on your channel is really, really awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for making the time, having me on. It's been great fun.
The pleasure was all mine and that of my viewers, and we'll do it again soon, man. Thanks again.
Awesome.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Thank you for watching. And as always, take care, guys.